Hi guys, it's Matt here from MCS-books. Now today I'm going to start a new sort of video series, which I'm going to title Bad Book, Good Movie. So we all know the very popular adage that comes from the book community where we say, the book was better. Usually it's the case because the film industry will only make books that are particularly popular within the market. So then usually these are books that we tend to love so much, and then the film comes out and we don't love it as much, but we do sometimes just love the film anyway. In my experience, I feel like there's only one film that I enjoyed more than the book, and that was probably Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. I absolutely loved the film. I watched the film before I read the book, and when I read the book, I still enjoyed the book. It was the best one of the trilogy, but it wasn't as good as the film, in my opinion. Now, since the film industry usually adapts books that are popular because they know it's going to sell, it makes me wonder if what would happen if the film industry started actually adapting bad books. So in this series, I'm going to talk about books that I found quite disappointing or that I didn't enjoy so much, and then I'm going to sort of pitch how they could be better as a film. Within this, it will kind of be like a study of a particular film director, because I'm going to match a bad book with a great film director, and I am going to discuss the ways I think this film director could adapt the book to be a great movie. So the first book I'm going to start with today is All That Man Is by David Szalay. Szalay? Sorry. So yes, this was a book that I was really disappointed for. It was shortlisted for the Man Booker Prize in 2016, and I went into it thinking this was going to be like a really great book about masculinity and what it means to be man. It's a collection of 9 short stories that are about 9 different men, and I seem to remember that like maybe 1 or 2 of them, like the characters are kind of linked in very tenuous ways, but it's not, they are quite separate stories. And each one is about a man that's in a point in his life, and they're all different ages. They're in a point of his life where he just kind of is left to wonder what is next, like what does it mean to be a man? Like what should I be doing? What am I doing with my life? Blah, blah, blah. And it's all very much based in Europe, which I liked because it wasn't always just England or an English-speaking country. There's a lot of sort of different European nationalities represented in this book. However, this was such a poor exploration of masculinity. All the male characters were just like pretty much white middle-class men. I don't think they all were, but the majority of them were. And they're all just entitled. They've gone their whole lives getting everything they want, and now they're in just like a little bit of a situation, which isn't a particularly bad situation for most of them. It's just a situation they weren't expecting. And then they're just whining like absolute babies. It's missing any real diversity, and it's just really frustrating. It just perpetuates what the idea of masculinity should be, and it comes from a very white, middle-class, hegemonic ideal, which is just completely rubbish. I was very disappointed by this one. I think the only thing I quite liked about it was that, and probably the only thing that kept me going through, was that it had a mix of humors where it was very bleak throughout, because it was all these poor men who had such difficulties going on, and it was kind of a bleak perspective, but there was also like a funny side to it, or there was funny situations that they were in, and then sometimes the supporting cast were just better than the main protagonist. And I guess in a way that was a commentary in itself. I don't think the main characters are meant to be particularly likable, but the reasons why they're not likable wasn't really explored in any way, and kind of just rubbish. So enough of a rant about the book. I'm going to talk about it as an adaptation in film. I think that this could have like a great opportunity to be made into film, and it should be done right. It should be a real exploration of masculinity. And I believe a good film director to do that is a Spanish director, a very famous Spanish director, probably Spain's most famous Spanish director, Pedro Almodóvar. He is one of my favourite film directors. And when I went to see one of his most recent films, I'm so excited with the English translation, I went to see like a live Q&A, so I got to see him talking about the film itself, and it was just, he's just a great personality. So why do I think that he could be a good director to adapt this bad book? Well, first of all, he's European, but he's not English, which I think is important. I feel like this story needs to be told from the perspective of a non-native English speaker European, which seems like a bit of a mouthful, but the reason is that I feel like there needs to be another point of view from this story, and not an English-speaking hegemonic point of view. Pedro Almodóvar's English is very good, and he can add like just something different, which I feel like a British person wouldn't. The humour and the style of a British director would make it very much a sort of gritty, dark comedy, which it could be, but it needs to be a bit more like fun and colourful and lively, which Pedro Almodóvar does very well, especially if you see some of his comedies, like, for example, I'm So Excited, which was the film of his that I saw most recently. The whole idea of the film is that they're stuck on a plane where the wheel has got jammed, so they need to make an emergency landing, and they all believe they're going to die. Well, the air stewards then slip sleeping pills into the drinks for the whole of economy class, so the whole of economy class are just sleeping for the entire movie, and then it all takes place in the first class section of the plane, and then it kind of like reveals that, oh, they need to make an emergency landing, but they're not sure, they could all die. So then there's just a hilarious comedy based in the first class section of the plane with all the characters thinking they're going to die and what they're going to do to, like, before they die, basically. It is dark, the comedy to it is dark, but at the same time it's just so bright and colourful and lively that it handles the situation in a way that I don't feel a British director could. So I feel like that element of it could be definitely done within this. And also, because this book deals with masculinity, I feel that Pedro Almodóvar will handle that so well. Now, Almodóvar is a very feminist film director. He will always say that he is, and he's proud of it. He likes to play with gender in a way that kind of goes against the ideal. Now, one of his films, I can't actually remember the title of it, but I'll post it here. One of his films, he actually has a trans female character in it. And then what he does when he casts his film is he has a cisgendered woman playing the trans woman and a trans woman playing the cisgendered woman to kind of like throw it on its head and to make it a little bit more witty and powerful. And he does this throughout all of his films. He's always throwing gender stereotypes on its head and in a really fun, really playful way. And one of his older films, Kika, I absolutely loved it. There's this one scene that still haunts me to this day, and it just goes to show how well he handles social commentary, political messages, and gender difficulties. And he can take a topic which is a difficult topic, he can just bring it to life in such a fun and powerful way. The scene in Kika that I'm thinking particularly of is actually a rape scene, and it's quite a bad rape scene. However, for the entire scene, I couldn't stop laughing. The way that it was set up, the way that it was then visually handled, the way that the characters were interacting, because there was another female character that was kind of witnessing the whole rape scene. And I think she actually then gets caught up into it. Now, you may think it's highly inappropriate to laugh, but that's the point. That's the point of the film, and that's the point of the scene, is that you as an audience member are laughing at something that is so horrific, and then once it's kind of finished, you're left there to be like, bloody hell, I was laughing at rape. And it makes you think about the value and the meaning that we ascribe to these situations, and then how we kind of give it a taboo where it shouldn't be a taboo. It should be something that we're talking about more and more, and something that's normalized in order to enact change. So when he represents this scene as a comedic scene, it kind of makes you question the taboo of it, and it kind of allows you to explore a difficult topic within yourself, because then you start questioning yourself as a consumer and as an audience, like, why am I laughing at this? Well, because of this, and this. And then juxtaposing it with what's actually being represented and shown, and you're just kind of left in this really strange state of, bloody hell, what do I do with this information? How do I cope with this? And it makes the audience then uncomfortable in a way that's just really powerful. And a film director that can do that is a good film director. So I believe there are some scenes in this which could have potential to be dealt with in a way that could really deconstruct the idea of masculinity and then make you uncomfortable in your handling of it as an audience, but also the character's handling of it. So Pedro Almodóvar has this very powerful like meta language that he uses within his films, and the way that he uses serious topics and comedy is such a powerful tool in dealing with a topic like masculinity and the deconstruction of masculinity, which this book absolutely failed in. He does also, however, handle serious situations sensitively and in a great way. If he's doing a serious film, the way that he shoots his films and the way that he tells his stories really kind of makes you on edge with the characters that are being portrayed. So for example, one of my favourite films of his, The Skin I Live In, you've got these characters and you've got villains and you've got heroes and you're rooting for them throughout, and then in the middle of this film there was like a massive plot twist which it just blew everything, all your expectations as an audience member, out of the water. I'm not going to tell you what it is because I don't want to spoil it, and you should really watch this film. However, the way that he can handle these situations as who is a villain, who is good, these morally grey characters and your feelings and associations of these characters, he handles it so well, and he can flip the world in its head in a way that really makes you think, and really empowers you to question, what does it mean to be human? What does it mean to be good? What does it mean to be bad? And are we all just a little bit of both? And how can our actions that could be perceived as good then kind of actually be perceived as bad from somebody else's perspective and stuff? And it's all very much makes you question. And I feel like this is something that this book needs. It needs the proper dissection of the characters as to their motives and their actions. They're all morally grey, but it's not explored so well within this book that I feel the author was scared to emasculate any of these characters. And I feel like he was very much superficially exploring their flaws in a way that didn't really explore it. It didn't explore the problems that we are facing in our society in regards to men and why men need feminism. And if there's any male director that can really handle feminism well, I believe Almodóvar can. And that is why I feel like he could make this book a really great film, and a film that I would go to see. So yes, that's the first of a series where I'm going to match a bad book to a good film director and explore how it could be made into a good film. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to do another one of these videos very soon. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time for another video. Bye bye!